Hi, good afternoon. This is Econ 221, Microeconomics. The purpose of this video is to show you how to use some of the features in your textbook in order to verify for yourself that you're actually learning what you're supposed to be learning. To do that, I'm going to be sharing my screen. In particular, I'm going to be sharing a page in your textbook called Problems and Applications. This page is a page that you will find immediately following the review questions page. Upon reading your chapter, you should be using these two pages as a gauge of your understanding of the content of the chapter. So your review questions will test each and every learning objective that you have for the course. Notice how there are plenty of questions. Many times, one good strategy would be to chat with other members of your class, of your College Connect class, and divvy up. Let's say that you have a group of 5 people. So divvy up and do 5 questions each. And notice how every question comes with a learning objective assigned to it. So if you look at your learning objective 1.1, for example, it's the definition of scarcity. So it would test your understanding of scarcity. Your second learning objective is an objective describing the explanation of opportunity cost and marginal decision making. Okay, so all 7 objectives in each chapter are also found in a key term page. Page 21 has the elements of the textbook and the definitions of each definition. So it should be used to refresh your memory until the use of these particular terms becomes really matter of common usage on your part of the language in question. For example, how is problem 2 here? A problem about the concept of scarcity. It says you're looking for a new apartment in Manhattan. You're making $4,000 a month. And in addition, you're given that you should not spend more than a quarter of your income on rent, which means you shouldn't spend more than $1,000 on rent. So then the question is that absent location among these 4 neighborhoods, Midtown, Delancey, Battery Park, and Chelsea, the question then is which apartments should you consider as a move-in? And the answer is simply Delancey. Delancey is the only apartment that's within your budget. So because your rental budget is $1,000, Delancey is the only apartment falling within your advantage. Suppose you adhere to the 25% guideline, but you also receive a $1,000 cost of living supplement because you're living in Manhattan. So then the question is, what should you do? Well, the answer to that is, if your supplement is of a $1,000 cost of living, then you have an extra $250, another quarter of that $1,000 that could go toward your monthly rent. In that situation, you are then able to rent an apartment for $1,250. So the Chelsea apartment, the Chelsea location, as well as the Delancey location become available. So that's how you basically apply the notion of scarcity to come up with a rationale for economic decision making. You make economic decisions based on scarcity so that you can distinguish between affordable and non-affordable allocations of your resources. Another example. This example is on the notion of opportunity cost and of marginal, the notion of marginal cost or marginal benefit. What does the word marginal mean? Well, if you look at a page of paper where you're writing, marginal refers to the margins. What kinds of things go on the margins? Well, on the margins, you just put extra things, like when you get a paperback from a teacher who's grading an English paper, they'll put notes on the margin, meaning extra. So the notion of marginal cost means additional cost. So it does not take into consideration costs that have already been incurred in the past. So example, in this problem number 4, it says sweaters that sell for $15 at a fair, at a crafts fair. And Allie knits these sweaters, and her marginal costs, as you can see, are on an increasing basis. Her first sweater costs her $5 of worth of her time and effort and materials to make that first sweater. The second sweater by itself costs $8, meaning that if she had to take 2 sweaters to the fair, that would cost her $13. If she had to take 3 sweaters to the fair, there would be an additional $12 cost to that third sweater. And so in all, she would have to spend $25 to produce 3 sweaters. So that $25 is what we would call the total cost. The marginal cost is just the extra cost for the extra sweater, or the additional cost per sweater. And so in this case, if sweaters sell for $15 at the fair, Allie has every incentive in the world to bring 3 sweaters to the fair, because she will make money with every sale. However, if she brings a 4th sweater to the fair, she's actually going to be losing $3 on that sweater, because she can't sell it for more than $15 at the crafts fair. So the total number of sweaters she would choose to produce and sell at the fair would be 3. The 4th one, the 5th one, and the 6th one would not get produced by Allie, because they basically eat away at the profits that she would earn in the first 3 sweaters. So the notion of incremental or marginal benefits and costs is a very important concept that we apply and we use often in making economic decisions. So what matters is the marginal cost, not the total cost. Take, for example, the issue of building a mass transit system like BART. I'm not sure if you guys have used BART before, but when you build a system, municipal railway system like the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, it costs billions and billions of dollars to build the rails, to build subterranean tunnels that go under the bay between Oakland and San Francisco, and many other parts. There are tubes that go under the whole of Market Street in San Francisco. There are tubes that go under the downtown part of Oakland. So many parts, it's very expensive to build a Bay Area Rapid Transit System. In all, it'll probably cost hundreds of billions of dollars to complete the Bay Area Rapid Transit System. It's still under construction. It's meant to go all the way down to San Jose and perhaps even to Morgan Hill. It's meant to go farther east. I remember not too many years ago, it would just go to Concord and North Concord. Now it goes all the way to Antioch and beyond. And before it used to only go to Fremont. And now it's wrapping around the Milpitas Peninsula, and it's going to eventually become a loop. So it's a multi-billion-dollar investment. But the question then becomes, what is the cost of adding more capacity to an individual train? And the answer to that question is, curiously, it's $0. In other words, if you need to add 1 more train so that you can add 20, 30, 40 more passengers to any given train, the cost of that is $0, because you already incurred the cost of building the whole system and you already incurred the cost of electricity and the cost of cars. So to add one more car to a train is just a function of providing enough space for more travelers, which is why during the peak hours of mass transit in early morning and late afternoon in pre-COVID situations, you'd see longer trains with many, many cars. Or whenever there's a baseball game in downtown San Francisco or a football game at Berkeley, you see more trains with more, you see more frequent trains with more cars riding on the system. And the additional cost of that is near zero. Even though the additional passenger revenue is extraordinary, the additional cost is near zero. And so that's why you build mass transit systems in that way, because creating an opportunity for more transit to be available to any additional passenger comes at a zero cost. However, these systems tend to be extraordinarily expensive to build and to maintain, but not at the margin. These kinds of costs are sometimes referred to as fixed costs. And whenever these fixed costs are non-recoverable, they're referred to as sunk costs. So fixed and sunk costs will be part of our conversation later on when we look at production theory. Let's see. In this case, you have consider the events that change prices as described in table 1P4. For each one, say whether the opportunity cost of consuming the good, of consuming the affected good increases or decreases. So what happens when a local movie theater offers a student discount and the affected good is movie tickets? So what happens to the purchase of movie tickets if students get a discount on a movie theater? So you go to the Brendan Theater, you look at the pricing, and the pricing structure adds a new line that you hadn't seen before, that if you're a student, you get a discount. Would that affect the actual cost of consuming the affected good increases or decreases? Does the opportunity cost increase or decrease? So the opportunity cost of the movie tickets decreases, which means that there will be a greater volume of consumption of movie tickets. So the opportunity cost is an interesting concept because it simply means, opportunity cost simply means what you are willing to forego or give up for what you get. It's what you give up for what you get. That's the opportunity cost. So if you're giving up less than what you get, you want it more. So things with lower opportunity costs are more desirable than things with higher opportunity costs. Learning objective 1.5 is about distinguishing between correlation and causality. So what is correlation and what is causality? Causality is when one feature or factor impacts another. Correlation is when two or more things happen to have recurrences that seem to be occurring simultaneously, but don't necessarily follow a chain of progression. Correlation, in other words, is not causality. Correlation is co-occurrence. Causality means that one thing causes another to happen. So items that are positively or negatively correlated means that when one factor is observed above its average value, the other factor tends to also be observed above its average value, and vice versa. When one is observed to be below its average value, so is the other one. A negative correlation is the opposite. When one is above average in value, the other one tends to be below average. And it's a tendency, tends to be. It's not causal. Causality would imply that when one thing occurs, the other follows imminently. There's no tendency but imminence about it. So those are the differences between cause and effect. So if we go back to the problems and we look at determine whether each of the following questionable statements is best explained by coincidence, some hidden factor, or reverse causation. Cities that have more police, crime rates are higher. So does that seem like more police cause more crime? Well, that would be the case in a situation where a police system may be corrupt. But we don't know that. That's not a given feature in this sentence. It's simply stating more X and more Y occur. Perhaps the higher level of policing is a function of the fact that of the reality of a higher crime rate in the city. And if that's the case, then we say police and crime rates are positively correlated, but that doesn't mean that one causes the other. We don't know that. Many retired people live in states where everyone uses air conditioning during the summer. So is it the case that retired people de facto use more air conditioning? Or is it that there's a hidden factor such as summer weather impacting both the higher use of air conditioning and summer weather being the reason why retirees move to warmer weather because they prefer to live in warmer climates than in cooler climates? So in that case, there seemed to be an omitted, not a really omitted variable because summer is listed in the sentence, but there's a coincidence. Warm summer weather attracts elderly, and warm summer weather creates a more desirable situation, a lower opportunity cost for air conditioning. And as such, you observe both together, but it's the summer weather driving both. It is not that old people cause air conditioning or air conditioning causes old people. So that's the nature of Learning Objective 1.5. I hope that this video was helpful at basically showing how you can use these 15 problems on in these review questions in order for you to verify that you are learning the content as you can. I would also invite you to visit my office hours during the times of 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday. Once things get regularized, when things get normal, after the ad codes and all of the other administrative things that happen in the first week of class, I definitely would love to interact with you, answer your questions, support your learning in as much as I can. Have a good day.